on to the topic at hand, obviously, we didn't get a chance after our GridIron draft to really break it down at all and kind of just reflect on what we saw and what was surprising. So let me pop that on the screen for everybody to see, and we'll break it down. Any initial thoughts just off of memory? You don't have to be super crazy about it, but
Let's see what we got here. So right off the bat, we already knew Marvin was going to go 1-1. That is no surprise in any world. Caleb at 2, of course, he absolutely could have been 1-1, depending on who you are. If I was able to acquire 1-1, I probably would have picked Caleb, to be quite honest.
let me pause
Um,
you. Let me pause you
yep.
real quick too. I was honestly surprised that you didn't try to make any sort of trade up for him.
I gave that man, I offer that man
No, I meant
my,
me because I had number
oh,
two,
oh, oh, sure. Yeah.
which was a whole process inside of itself with like 8 moving parts just to move up.
Well, to be quite honest, you wanted what, 4 and 6? You wanted at least 2 of those picks.
Yeah, I would have done
Um,
4 and 6.
and I'm building depth with this. So
Right. No, that's fair. Yeah, I was. I mean, I would like to say I was surprised, but I kind of knew this going in because Cody and I had talked about that like last year about just he was going Marvin Harrison regardless. As soon as he won 1-1, and that was like a no doubt. Like I'm not trading this. I'm doing this. And he stuck to it. So hats off to him. He has enough quarterbacks on his team. So Caleb falling to me. I do have Burrow. I do have Allen. So it wasn't a need, but you draft for talent, right, Richie?
certainly, you literally have to. Otherwise, once we get into my picks, I'll explain that. But you
Exactly.
draft for talent. You don't draft for need. You draft for talent, and then you trade for need.
Yes.
So let me say it again. You draft for talent, and then you trade for need. You don't just start picking people that have no talent because you see the need. All right.
Yep. And that's just like kind of Dynasty 101 that, being in enough leagues, you make fun of me for being in so many, but like that's something I see a trend of is that there's people that will come out and say, "Oh, well, I don't have a quarterback. I'm just going to take the best one on the draft board." That's not the best way because then you end up with Mac Jones or Zach
Exactly.
Wilson
Quite literally. No, quite literally. That is exactly, and it
Kenny
happens
Pickett.
every year.
Yeah.
And it happens. Kenny Pickett. It
And
happens every
you would
year.
think that like certain people like not even I'm not going to call them out because I would just say it, but there's certain people in different leagues that I'm in too that will just do that, and it's just I never understand why. Like what goes through their process when they're thinking a dynasty. Like a lot of people when it comes to fantasy, they set their lineup, they get excited for the draft, you never hear from them again. That's
Right.
kind of like what I want to see people grow from is using your mind, working these trades. But yeah, like you said, you draft for talent, and just we got to beat that into people's heads when we're breaking down fantasy. We're trying to help people here. At least I am because I want competition. I'm tired of like just
I'm not trying
making.
to help nobody.
Oh, I'm not helping anyone specifically. I just meant in general the
No, I
audience.
know, I
It's the
know.
audience that's not in our league because honestly, no one from our league's going to listen to this. Maybe John. Shout out John again. Anyway,
Love you, John.
back
Love you, John.
back into the draft. Dan did take Jaden Daniels 2. I mean 3. I didn't see a problem with it. I was a little surprised because I'm actually a neighbors guy. He does fill that. He did have the need at wide receiver as well, but he did take Daniels, which because he has Carr and Geno Smith, so that was an easy pick. And you could argue he could have gotten 2 over Harrison, in my opinion, because he is getting the starting gig right away.
Sure.
And then you jumping into your 3 picks in a row with 4, 5, and 6, you had Neighbors, Adunze, and Bowers. I love all those picks. Go ahead and roll with it.
I mean, so Neighbors and Adunze were going to be givens. And here's where you draft for talent and not need is that I did have TJ Hawkinson. Granted, the ACL injury should return maybe week 5 or so, I think. But I don't theoretically need him. I really don't. But we draft for talent and not need. And then if I ever do now need to move for a different position, say somebody gets hurt, now I have this incredible talent in this tight end premium league to now go and make moves and deals for. Because what if my Brock Bowers turns into 2 first round picks and a player,
Yeah. I mean,
right?
there's no reason he shouldn't. He's got the generational talent.
Yep. And so we were, those three picks were definitely. I didn't see any other need, to be quite honest. JJ McCarthy and Drake May. I've already got QBs locked up with Trevor Lawrence and Lamar. Hopefully, Trevor actually does something and actually makes a leap this year. I saw this awful graphic that burned my eyes. Comparing his stats to Blake Bortles in their first 50 career starts. And I'm just gonna let you go ahead and Google that for yourself and let you just be absolutely baffled that the guy like ripping cigs and doing construction right now in his Tesla has had better numbers through his first 50 than T-Law, which is very upsetting. However, QBs are locked in, so I didn't feel the need to take McCarthy or Drake May. I'm also, and I know you know this, but I'm also not high on either guy right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
So right now, right?
That's fair.
Based upon kind of like the tools around them and what I've seen. I don't think Drake May is going to have a very good rookie year. McCarthy might, depending on his tools around him, his pieces around him. JJ is obviously going to help that. Greatly in TJ, etc. And then also Aaron Jones, right? Aaron Jones has now made his way to the Vikings, which is interesting. Kind of thought he was going to be a Packer for life. But that's kind of my thoughts with my three picks is that I couldn't not pick them.
Exactly.
Logically.
And amongst all the drafts I've done about nine or so dynasty leagues already, maybe one or two less, doesn't matter.
Jesus.
But that's pretty much the range I've seen all these guys go. It's been pretty much chalky with all these. Adunze's gone that. I've also seen McCarthy flip with them, but all those picks loved him because Adunze, he might not be that guy this year, but he could. There's there's a good chance that all three of their starters with Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Adunze all go over 1,000 yards this year. And it would not shock me. And that's a bold prediction, but wouldn't shock me there.
If
And
if that type of production comes from those three wide receivers and you're accurate and they all hit the 1,000 mark, that means we are a very good fucking team.
yeah,
And
I think it's
we're
possible. I think it's possible based off of like the strength of schedule. The strength of schedule is nothing that I'm really looking and I'm like, oh, that defense is like really tough. Like, you look at like different conferences. I mean, yeah, you got the Lions, they're pretty good defense, but Vikings and Packers are kind of mid, in my opinion, when it comes on the defensive side of the ball. You did touch on McCarthy and May already. Both might not start right away. But at the range that these next two picks that they got them, so Pat and Gibby both took them. I was fine at this range, really, just because there really wasn't anyone else on the board that I could say I would take over.
would go over, yeah, talent wise. Like, don't get me wrong, like talent wise, they're back end of like where they got drafted. I think is exactly where they fit.
Yes.
So that's where we have no qualms with that. If I had to actually be that person, I actually don't know what at 110 what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing at 110.
Yeah, and so that's funny that you mention it. So obviously, Xavier Worthy, he went at 9.
Fine with it. Yep.
Fine with it because that's a high upside with
Yep.
playing with Patty Mahomes.
Rashid Rice likes to drink and drive and hit people.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. So I tried like hell to trade up for 110 with Jeremy, and that's the funny part about this pick is that he did take Corum. I was actually trying to trade up. I was trying to trade him Kyron so I can move up and then take Jonathan Brooks because he has Chuba Hubbard. So I was going to attack the other, get a little younger, and kind of take that risk, which actually probably would have set me back. Big picture. Moving along with it, though, I did end up trading up after he took Corum. We broke down a deal. I ended up giving him because he's got DeAndre Swift. I ended up trading him Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson for Blake Corum, which is kind of bananas if you think about it. 2 players for 110.
it really is. So
that one honestly was a head scratcher even for myself, but we did it. We did
it's
it.
Done. What's done is done.
Exactly. Keon Coleman went to Dan. He needed that wide receiver need. That was great. Pat ended up taking Benson over Brooks, that one was the shock to me because I think people are really too high on Benson after I always call him James Conner had that breakout year last year, which he stayed, every time he was on the field, he was getting the volume, and that's not going to change just because Marvin Harrison gets there. You know what I mean? Same with Benson. Benson will be a fine player. Let's not take, we're not going to take any flowers away from him, but he's going to be
We're just
good.
talking in terms of like where he's getting drafted, and if like should really Blake Corum and Trey Benson have gone before Jonathan Brooks? Absolutely fucking not.
Right. I've seen
And that's where Mystic Dan hit it. That's where he hit it in the second round. Great pick. Way to not miss it, right?
Yeah. He actually has been like surprisingly solid with his picks thus far. So what we've seen, we like what you did, Train Boy Dan.
And then
yep,
yeah. So after Brooks, we have Bo Nix. And I'm not exactly sure what kind of need there is for Bo Nix on his team.
He does because that's Walter's pick, so he did need him.
He's starting
just because,
right?
Yeah, he might be the starter. If not, he's got Stidham because later in the draft, him and I did do I think I took his fourth from him, so he locked down the Broncos back or QB room. Perfect. Then we jump onto your pick again. We got Brian Thomas. Pair him with T-Law. At this point, I was shocked he was still on the board. I tried to trade up once again. Couldn't move into those top 3 ahead of you to grab him because he's going to be a steal at that point. And then you move into Ladd McConkey, solid player. I hate, once again, we're not going to compare him to Cooper Kupp. We're not going to do that because that's a lazy comp. It's lazy because you're comparing wide receivers.
That's just all you're doing. Yeah, you're comparing skin color. Like,
yeah, he's a great route runner, but he plays outside. Okay, think Doug Baldwin. Boom, done. Then we move with the Pat, which we already know how Pat drafts. He loves his players that he likes. He's been following Braylon Allen since he was in diapers.
I think I found Braylon Allen when he was a freshman, because he got on campus at 18 or 19 and he had like a carry and they were like, this is the next guy, and it turned out to be, well, he never really had that outstanding career at Wisconsin like Jonathan Taylor or some of the previous Melvin Gordon, Ball, to throw it even further back. So he didn't have that type of career, but if you watched him play, you laid eyes on him, you were like, all right, when he gets to the NFL, this guy's going to do it. So drafting him at 2-7 above some of the other guys is, it doesn't surprise me. It's Pat. No. He wants his player. He's going to get his player. And it might take a year, it might take 2 years. It might even be like he gets that job soon. We don't know. Like Braylon could,
if anything happens to Breece Hall, I mean, it's his backfield. They're gonna split it up like a tad. We're talking like maybe like a 70-30. I see that because they're gonna save Breece because they're gonna run the hell out of the ball this year.
At least they should. And we expect the Jets to be an actual good team this year, outside of that absolute fucking witchcraft last year on September 11th. I don't even know what to call that. But it's not happening again, Jeffrey. Nope. You're gonna get your year. You're gonna get one. You're going to get 1 year, but you're gonna get your year.
All I need.
And so I'm gonna let you do the next one.
So we had Dave taking Jatavian Sanders, and this is a draft for need, just because he had Darren Waller retire pretty much the day that we started drafting.
That's right.
Jumped ahead on him. I hate Sanders. Just before when we were talking,
you do
the last draft
before the draft.
Yeah, the last podcast we did, and maybe even before that, I was talking terribly about Jatavian Sanders. He's slow. He's just a big body. Okay, so that's Darnell Washington, basically, is what we're seeing here. If I'm wrong on this, then
that's a comp, though. That's a decent comp.
I mean, they're both really tall. They have big hands, and they'll be red zone production. That means Bryce Young, which I actually think he's going to break out this year, is going to elevate him to be in the red zone. Other than that, he's not going to be that guy. I mean, if I'm wrong, like I said, it's fine, but just not my cup of tea player. And I'll leave it at that. And then you can, if you have anything on that one, go for it. But
it's possible, right? I mean, like anything else, like if he gets the targets, I think he's still second on the depth chart, which behind Tommy Trimble ? Maybe. Or did he go off and hopefully become a free agent because he sucked too.
Yeah,
Um,
just awful. I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but I mean, he's probably just based off. It depends on the volume. He'll be relevant, but there's so many good tight ends that. Then we ended up with Mitchell out
Good
of
pick.
Indianapolis. He has Anthony Richardson, solid
Yep,
pick at
great
this
pick.
point. Marshawn Lloyd, I love that player. Love the situation. People think that Josh Jacobs is the undefeated, running back in that system because they see one headline and they say, "Oh, well, they're going to run the ball."
Well,
Okay,
Josh
well,
Jacobs, AJ Dillon, and then I believe that leaves Lloyd RB3.
right. But that being said, we've seen what AJ Dillon is. He's not good.
He's
Quadzilla is not good.
no.
All that we can say is that if you go back, and I want people to do their homework on it, go look at the time split or the timeshare splits since Matt LaFleur has been in Green Bay. It's been very 60-40 his entire career with Aaron Jones. And that's not counting in injuries and all that other bullshit. That's like when they're both on the field or both available, what he does. So Lloyd's going to get his time, whether it's early, whether it's late. Love the pick in the late second. I probably would have taken him over Braylon Allen unless I have Brees.
Oh, I wouldn't have done that. I would have picked Braylon over Marshawn Lloyd.
Really?
Talent wise, yes.
Talent
Speak of
wise,
talent.
yeah, I get it. I mean, it's up for debate, but at least at least there's a debate there. Now this one, I don't know if you know who he is. Though Ben Sinnott, he played at Kansas State, I believe. I am so high on this guy. I think we have another Trey McBride in our midst here. And it's a really lazy comp because Zach Ertz played ahead of him too. But Zach Ertz can't stay in the field.
Nope.
He has a year to learn. I think he's actually going to work his way on the field this year. Jaden Daniels, rookie quarterback. Who do rookie quarterbacks like to throw to?
Terry.
Ends. So, yeah, I hope Terry. So then you end up with Ben Sinnott there. He's kind of the dynasty darling, too, if you listen to other podcasts. And then this one was another surprise for me that because I took this pick, was shocked to see that Michael Penix fell to the third round.
Why?
People,
Why?
perfect. Let me explain it.
Tell me why. Tell me why the guy who's not going to play for the next 3 years unless injury happens is a shocking pick in the third round.
All right. So, yes, Kirk Cousins just signed a 4-year deal, right?
Yes.
He's injured, so he's coming off that injury. Is he 100%?
Which is an Achilles, right? We must note.
Yes.
Very
Let's
tough
note
injury.
the actual injury. Yes.
Yep.
Tough injury to come back to. That's not something you can easily come back to. He might not. He's also 39. We also have to think about it. If they're not productive, if anything happens to him, Penix is going to be playing. So that's one scenario. The second scenario is that's a lot of cap room that they're probably going to end up eating. The reason I'm thinking about that is look at what happened in Denver. Granted, Sean Payton just hated Russell Wilson.
Nobody can replicate that situation.
Right.
that is a tough one to like piggyback off of and say, look at this situation where we we traded for a coach, we traded for player, and we just couldn't do anything. And then yes, the dynamic turned out to be we couldn't really understand if they were on the same page or if Sean Payton hated Russell. If everybody hated Russell for that matter on the team.
Very fair, yeah.
So that is such a difficult situation to compare to because it's almost an outlier if you really must.
Yes, stretch the bubble gum. The moral of that one is just the fact that they ate money to get rid of him.
Yes.
Kirk Cousins could be on his way out. He might not be this end all be all too. Granted, it's a new offense, so we're not like Bijan's going to skyrocket, but
Yes.
That's a lot to expect that Kirk Cousins at 39, almost 40 years old is going to, for one, bounce back after a really traumatic injury and be that productive for another 4 years. Yes, 3 years, that's fine. He could sit there on my bench. We've already discussed my QBs here, but anything happens to Kirk, look who just pops right in there in that offense. That's worth the risk in a third round, in my opinion.
Sure.
Talent's there. Talent's there.
Talent's there. We understand that he was in college for 6 years and tore both his ACLs and maybe both his rotator cuffs. Doesn't matter. Talent's there. And if anything, like Penix said in his letter, was like, I could come back from shit. motherfuckers can't come back from the injuries that I've endured. So
Yep.
I kind of liked when he said that
Yeah.
as a chip in his corner. He's like, I work hard, I come back. You don't know what's going to happen to other people when they get hurt. Are they going to be the same? Are they going to do this? Like, well, he's come back from terrible injuries and still been at a very elite level in college, and then also being that left-handed quarterback, which is always a very interesting dynamic. Which just real quick, it seems like the boys are having a hard time catching the spin on his ball, so maybe a good sign as well, right there.
Exactly.
Point to your credit, right?
Yeah. At this point, it's worth the risk. Moving on to bigger and better things outside of my picks here. Jalen Wright went 3 to Dan. He has Devon Achane, good backup
Good
pick.
Yeah.
We got Gibby taking the homer pick with Cooper DeJean.
Gonna put up
John.
a lot of points.
Yep. He even said it. I was with him when he picked him. He said it was a
okay.
So it's fine.
I saw that and I said, all right, we don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah. And then you took Xavier Legette, who should have been I really wanted him, but I saw Penix just sitting there. So I'm like, I have to take him. He's going to be awesome with Bryce Young, like I said. Brendan Rice, that was another pick that he just wanted to pick him. He probably would have went undrafted, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you want to just we'll jump ahead and flip his 2 picks. Tracy from the Giants, just because it's Singletary's backfield right now. He's getting a lot of, preseason hype. Another dynasty darling that you'll see in all the.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, you're going to want to watch him. He's going to be solid. But usually you saw those 2 picks flip. But then moving on, which is also going to be a steal of the draft, is Ricky Pearsall. He goes to John. He's got the opportunity with Ayuk or Debo getting traded. It's going to happen. It's going to be Ayuk. Because
I'm tired of hearing about this shit every day I wake up from Bleacher Report. It's like, guys, it doesn't seem like it's gonna happen. We should just be trying to move on. Anyway.
Yep, should be solid player. He was a great route runner in Florida. Really, just like every game I watched with Florida, he was like the guy. Pearsall. I'm like, wonder if he's going to be good. End up getting drafted by the 49ers. So
he's an athlete.
Spencer Rattler, I do actually like this pick because.
Yep.
Carr can't be trusted. His shoulder looked terrible last year. I think he's going to be a solid QB. I think it's going to be one of those sneaky picks that ends up working out. Also, if you watch QB1,
if you must too, like just the history of Spencer Rattler. If you know anything about the guy, coming out of the Pinnacle High School in Arizona, like this guy was the best player. He was the top. I think he won the Elite 11. He was projected to be 1-1 for about 2 years. And I think the highs and lows of having so much media attention on him kind of fucked with him, which eventually led to him not, getting benched for Caleb and then transferring to South Carolina, where he put up good numbers. Wasn't overly spectacular, but here's the thing is like the talent and the intangibles have always been there. And it seems now, and I know they kind of said this too during the draft, that he's come into his own. He's very comfortable with who he is now. He's kind of accepted the past and, all those high expectations and not meeting them. And I think getting drafted in the 4th round, like in the actual draft was really good for him.
Exactly. Draft capital rules all.
And yes, Derek Carr, even though he did have a good year last year, don't get me wrong. I think Spencer now is primed to take over, and that was a great value pick for the Saints. And then also at 3-8, I think that was just an overall really good.
Yep. Moving into the running back, Audric Estime out of Notre Dame. That backfield's going to be a mess. Personally, Javonte might not even have a job next year or this fall. So interesting. Just throw your stick in the pond with that one. Corley, another pick I like. He's fighting for the wide receiver 3 position right now with the Jets. Kind of a gadget guy. People compare him to Debo. Just because of what he did in college. He just was like a guy that took the ball out of the backfield and, was outside. So good there. Then we got Troy Franklin, Dakota, good value there with the wide receiver. He is Bo Nix, so got the chemistry there. Jalen Polk with 4-2. That's a solid pick because I think people are hating a lot on Polk for no reason. The dude just competes. I think people have this Bill Belichick mind when they think of the Patriots. Granted, they did take one of his former coaches, but we'll see what that offense looks like. And then you talk about McMillan with Tampa Bay, could be a wide receiver 3, fighting for 4. Kind of a dart throw pick. I like this pick that I made myself here with Roman Wilson out of Michigan. You didn't see him do a whole lot in Michigan
No.
just because they run the ball a lot. That being said, he is kind of the exo facto, could be number 2 wide receiver in Pittsburgh, unless Ayuk gets traded there, which I hope he doesn't. So worth a 4th round pick. You took Dallas Turner, defensive gem right there. He could be really, really good immediately. We already talked about Tracy. Go ahead.
Yep, just for that pick because it was the only defensive player picked in this draft. Just for where I'm coming from, I felt like I had absolutely killed my draft with Thomas and Leggett being that like those guys should have went much earlier. I felt like I got a really good steals. And then here's my thing about now like Dallas Turner is that when you have the ability to be on the line and then also play that edge position, it gives flexibility to your defense and just like how you can manage them. Because essentially it's one less player that you have to have on your roster for a specific position because he's interchangeable to 2 positions now. And when we get to like campus to Canton, you're going to see my whole defensive team essentially has that. It's either defensive line or linebacker and defensive back. And it just gives ultimate flexibility. And I think he's going to rack up a lot more points having that flexibility of playing 2 different positions. And that was kind of where I came from with that. And then I also thought at the end of the draft that there really wasn't too much available.
No, I agree with you 100%. Worth the throw on defense because defense wins championships, as I've said multiple times. Moving on to John's pick with Jermaine Burton. Solid pick. He's going to be the wide receiver 3. Tyler Boyd's gone. He could move up to wide receiver 2.
Titans?
Cincinnati.
No. Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, Tyler Boyd did go to the Titans, yeah.
Gotcha. Yep.
So he'll be the ex facto wide receiver 3 because Treylon Burks sneezes and hurts his back. So Burton, that's another steal at this point. I think once again, if people really just got out of their own heads with players they like, they could have had a really good value there. Moving on to the last 2 picks that are pretty much irrelevant. Will Shipley will be fighting for his job behind Barkley. Unless Barkley gets hurt, not a big deal. And then
then it's Kenneth Gainwell, but
right, exactly. We've seen kind of what they do with that offense once their starters out. And then Edwards, I don't really know much about him, other than the fact that he got drafted to Pittsburgh and probably won't see the field.
You mean Michigan Edwards?
No, because Michigan Edwards is still there.
That's what I thought. Yeah, who is D Edwards?
We'll have to.
Give me a click. Yeah, give me a click here. Oh, come on.
There it is. Undrafted free agent.
1-year starter at Georgia. Okay.
Yep. Dejan. Yep, that's right. So that's basically our gridiron draft. Big picture. It was always fun. I love dynasty drafts. Not a lot of trades outside of myself. I made like 4 of them, kind of just moving into the back end of the draft just because I see the value there and worth a shot. A lot of them were backup QBs that just moved to their other team, which just saves